one of the district attorneys was hiding. They were hiding documents. They had to force them to give documents. I think there's so many powerful people that are on those lists. There's so many powerful people that went and partied. Air quotes, partied. This is the thing. We don't know who's involved in this whole Diddy thing. Is this an intelligence agency thing where they were trying to compromise people that were famous and get them to endorse certain political candidates? Is it that?
Or he's really close with Obama?
Or is it really just Diddy masterminded the whole thing like a fun gangster?
Joe Rogan just blew the lid off a scandal no one saw coming. On his latest episode, he named names, linking Diddy to a secret circle of celebrities caught up in something far darker than Hollywood gossip. Sources say the list includes a pop diva with a Vegas residency, a superhero actor with recent mental health breaks, and a tech mogul known for space rockets and chaos. Right after the episode dropped, things got weird. That pop star's team went silent. The actor fled to Europe, and the billionaire? Rumors say he scrubbed entire chat logs and canceled a mystery event on his private island. Rogan gave every detail, but what he said was enough. Wiped security footage, private parties with no phones allowed, and a list that no one's supposed to have. This isn't just drama. It's the calm before the storm. But before we dive into more drama, hit that subscribe button. What's coming next is even wilder. Joe Rogan and Elon Musk didn't mince words on a recent episode of The Joe Rogan Experience that's since gone viral for all the wrong reasons. In a segment that started as a critique of Hollywood hypocrisy, the conversation turned sharply toward Jennifer Lopez. Specifically, they pointed out her vocal stance against figures like Donald Trump. Public appearances, award show speeches, politically charged social media posts, while remaining completely silent about someone she was far closer to. Sean Diddy Combs.
I bet there's some memories in that house. You know?
Sounds rough, man.
Well, it's just amazing how many people on the Diddy party list that are supporting Kamala, too.
Yeah, seriously. It's like insane.
Publicly, openly, all in.
Yes. It's like J-Lo was like his ex-girlfriend. and it's like now deciding she's like warning people against Trump. I'm like, well, wait a second. So how many people did she warn against Diddy?
Right.
Oh, 0. Okay.
Right.
Well, maybe we shouldn't trust her opinion.
Did you see the Babylon Bees take on it? Did you see the Babylon Bees?
Babylon Bees awesome, but
oh my God, they're so on fire because the left can't say anything. Well, the Onion has been crippled.
Well, the problem is that like the
find that post.
The woke ideology makes like humor illegal.
Yes.
So when like there's so many humor no-fly zones,
right?
You can't make fun of anything.
Lopez, who dated Diddy from 1999 to 2001, is one of them. She's never been accused of a crime. But according to new whispers from the industry, her connection to Diddy wasn't just romantic or social, it was logistical, operational, and deeper than anyone outside the circle knew. In the early 2000s, Lopez wasn't just an emerging pop icon. She was deeply embedded in the infrastructure surrounding Bad Boy Records and Diddy's private empire. Confidential tour documentation leaked last month shows that Lopez's private travel arrangements often coincided with Diddy's even after their breakup. Multiple properties, one in the Hamptons, another in the Dominican Republic, had her listed as a priority green guest, a code used internally by Diddy's former event security to signify trusted individuals who were allowed to bypass screening procedures during high-tier gatherings.
All Jennifer Lopez had to do was marry a white boy, Oscar winner, for people to stop remembering that she had a gun in her pocketbook. She had gunshot residue on her hands the night that Natanya was shot at that club. Not once has she spoken up for the betterment of that woman or say something in her defense to stop Puffy from gaslighting her and trying to put hits out on her because he was afraid that maybe one day they would open the case and she still has the bullet fragments in her face. Like J-Lo has said nothing. You really thought that just running off and marrying Ben Affleck was going to take you out of the Diddy downfall?
One of those gatherings was what insiders now call the Violet Room, a converted soundstage in Beverly Hills that reportedly hosted off-record events between 2000 and 2003. Surveillance cameras were removed, power was routed through temporary generators, and guests were required to hand over phones and sign stack-thick NDAs. While the guest list was never meant to be public, a former staffer who worked on site during that period claims Lopez was present on at least 3 occasions, often arriving early, and sometimes with her longtime manager Benny Medina in tow. That same former staffer says Lopez was more involved than people think, adding that she would occasionally coordinate with Diddy's handlers on scheduling and room arrangements, especially for events where corporate sponsors or international guests were present.
Are involved, but the biggest one that you and I have both heard is concerned is Jennifer Lopez. She was his girlfriend for quite a while. The first time we really took note of her on a red carpet was the year that she went with Diddy and wore the famous green Versace dress. That launched her into the fashion world. And they were together a decent amount of time. He helped produce her first big album. She was there with the club shooting. I remember her standing on the steps of the courts in New York in a big white fur. She's got to be like, I don't need any more drama right now.
At one gathering in 2001, allegedly attended by several foreign dignitaries, Lopez was described as a quiet fixer, helping smooth out tensions between a high-profile guest and a music producer after an altercation in the VIP wing. The freak-offs, a term now echoing across encrypted forums and burner accounts online, were not limited to wild parties. Some were reportedly used to stage blackmail setups, business power plays, and behavior tests for rising artists. Footage allegedly from one such night, blurred and incomplete, was leaked briefly to an underground site before being taken down within hours. According to 2 separate analysts who archived it, a woman resembling Lopez appears briefly in a hallway, speaking to Diddy and a member of his security team before the feed cuts to static. Even Lopez's business ventures during those years are now being reevaluated. A 2002 fashion collaboration with a luxury brand linked to a Dubai-based investment group, previously considered just another celebrity deal, was allegedly brokered at a private island event where multiple guests have since lawyered up. The island, registered under a holding company tied to one of Diddy's shell corporations, was rumored to be a testing ground for executive socials, where artists, CEOs, and silent partners discuss deals with no paper trail. One particularly damning connection that's resurfaced is between Lopez and a woman identified in court documents as TS, a former model who has accused Diddy's network of trafficking and coercion. Yet despite all of this, flight logs, leaked communications, resurfaced photos, deleted videos, Lopez has said nothing. No public distancing, no legal statements, no acknowledgement of the firestorm swallowing her former partner. And it's not for lack of media attention. Her team has reportedly issued multiple quiet takedown requests for older images showing her and Diddy at private events, and her Wikipedia page was edited dozens of times in May alone, with references to the 1999 nightclub shooting repeatedly removed and restored. That nightclub incident is still one of the most telling moments in the Lopez-Diddy timeline.
She can't sing, but they got her a microphone and let her pretend.
So let me
She
ask.
was an okay actress, but, you know, she was good at acting. She'd been doing that all her life. You know, and she wanted to be Barbie and she wanted to have Ken. But if you were to really find the dolls that would really display their relationship best, you had to get one of those little dominatrix dolls for her.
Damn.
And then you gotta get the alcoholic one for him.
Oh.
And then every time you play with him, he gets to drink it.
He gets to drink.
On the surface, it looked like the end of their relationship, a chaotic night that left people injured and reputations shattered. But some close to the case say Lopez provided statements to investigators that were heavily redacted and that she was shielded from deeper questioning by high-level legal intervention. That night, she left the police station in a borrowed coat, climbed into a waiting SUV, and was on a plane to Los Angeles within hours. In the weeks following, she refused to address the incident in interviews, except to insist she had nothing to do with it. In hindsight, that phrasing feels increasingly calculated. Now, as Diddy faces mounting legal trouble and multiple alleged victims are stepping forward, the question isn't just about what Lopez knew, but why she's stayed quiet. Sources close to her team suggest she's monitoring the situation and not interested in being pulled into something she left behind long ago. But others in the industry say it's more complicated than that. One senior label executive who once worked with both Diddy and Lopez hinted that J-Lo has more to lose than people realize, suggesting that if certain files, digital or otherwise, resurface, her image could take a hit. Because the truth is, Jennifer Lopez wasn't just a bystander to the Diddy era, she was embedded in it. Now, not only Jennifer Lopez, but Will Smith has also found himself caught in the growing shadow surrounding the allegations against Diddy. Previously, Will Smith and Diddy were both accused of sexual misconduct involving minors, with the allegations tied to Diddy's notorious freak-off parties, private events that have long been surrounded by secrecy and disturbing rumors.
Diddy party with no lube. Come on, man. Come on,
painful,
man.
dog.
You gotta.
I bet he doesn't even. I bet Diddy's not even gay. I bet it's just he really enjoys guys just so he said he
Power?
fucked them.
Yeah, it's a power move.
I bet it's a
Yeah.
crazy.
Does that make him gay, though?
Crazy. Yes, it does.
I'd say it would
Crazy,
make me gay.
drugged up power move.
Yeah.
You know.
It's not
I
full.
can understand putting somebody in a headlock, but
Also,
fucking him, that's a lot.
filming everybody and having dirt on everybody, like it's a crazy
style.
organized crime. But it makes you think, like, is this guy doing it on his own?
No.
Like, who's above this motherfucker?
Is that? But
on,
is
Eddie.
that the
We both
case? Is he doing it on his own? Of
course not.
But maybe he is.
He's not. And also, it's funny, the celebrities come out to support Kamala. You're like, what?
Will's relationship with Diddy goes back decades, far beyond public appearances and surface-level friendships. In private, the two were closely tied through shared business interests, production collaborations, and a discreet social life that often blurred the line between luxury and indulgence. Multiple sources, former assistants, event security staff, and flight crew have claimed that Will was a regular at Diddy's most exclusive gatherings, the kinds that didn't appear on calendars and didn't allow cameras. These were invite-only nights hosted in off-the-grid villas, blacked-out mansions, and occasionally private yachts equipped with soundproof rooms and hand-selected guest lists. One former concierge, who worked for a luxury travel agency that handled A-list discretion packages, confirmed that Will's name often appeared alongside Diddy's on international bookings. These weren't standard vacations. They were carefully coordinated movements involving multiple layers of travel secrecy, decoy hotels, and pre-cleared guest manifests. In one specific instance from 2014, Will and Diddy were flown out to a private estate in the Caribbean known by insiders as the Mirror House, a compound allegedly used to host parties that lasted entire weekends and required staff to hand over devices before entering the perimeter. It's not just appearances either. Financial records tied to a now-defunct digital streaming startup reveal that Will was listed as a silent investor alongside Diddy. The company, publicly described as an experimental content platform, quietly shut down after 1 year amid allegations of improper data handling. No public explanation was given, and the paper trail ends in a shell corporation based in Panama. This investment, previously unknown to the public, was first flagged during an audit of companies linked to Diddy's wider business portfolio. The suggestion, among a growing chorus of online investigators, is that it was less about content and more about access. Another node in a larger system designed to manage who got into the room and who stayed out.
But the Fresh Prince sets the record straight on where he really stands with Combs, formerly known as Puff Daddy or Puffy early in his career, saying he's not jiggy with the freak-offs or baby oil, in fact. He says to the audience, "I haven't addressed any of this publicly, but I just want to say this very clearly. I don't have shit to do with Puffy, so y'all can stop all the memes. I can stop all of that bullshit." Will adds, "I ain't been nowhere near no damn freak-off. I do enough of my own shit. Don't be putting me in other people's bullshit. I ain't been nowhere near that man. I ain't did none of that stupid shit. So whenever y'all hearin' if somebody say that, it's a damn lie. I don't even like baby oil." Per the federal indictment released after his September 16th arrest and obtained by E! News, Combs' freak-offs were described as elaborate performances during which female victims were compelled through force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended acts with male commercial sex workers. The 54-year-old was also accused in the document of arranging, directing, masturbating during, and often electronically recording the freak-offs, as well as of transporting commercial workers across state lines and internationally.
What's particularly unnerving is how deliberate Will's participation appears to have been. He wasn't just stopping by or being polite, he was embedded. Former security personnel described how he would arrive at events through service entrances, avoid red carpet photo ops, and only speak to a select few individuals once inside. He was never the loudest in the room, but he was never absent either. And while many celebrities came and went, Will always came back. The same sources allege that he was often involved in the vetting process for new guests, especially younger artists, influencers, and up-and-coming talent who were invited under mentorship pretenses but often left shaken or withdrawn. And Jada? She was there too, though in a more peripheral way.
Miss Pinkett, you look fantastic.
We gotta go. We're blocking traffic.
Oh, we got it. Oh, we're blocking.
I'm sorry.
What do you say about the allegations? There's like, like so many rumors. Anything you want to say?
We sue it.
While she wasn't as frequently present at every gathering, multiple accounts place her at several key events over the years, particularly those centered around what organizers called energy recalibration or emotional syncing, terms now believed to be coded language for sessions that blurred consent and personal boundaries. Former stylists and handlers remember her arriving separately from Will, often appearing serene, spiritual, and in full control. One person who worked hospitality for a Diddy-hosted retreat in Ojai claimed Jada spent most of the weekend inside a candlelit room with high-profile guests, talking about energetic alignment and resetting intentions. Conversations that, according to this insider, seemed harmless at first, but took on a different meaning once other things happening on the property came to light. Now, even though there are multiple rumors suggesting that both Jada and Will are bisexual and were regular participants in Diddy's infamous freak-off parties, whether Jada fully understood what was happening or chose not to ask is still unclear. But like Will, she's never spoken about her connection to Diddy, not even now when others are scrambling to distance themselves. Now, while Will Smith and Jada stayed mostly in the background of Diddy's circle, Jay-Z and Beyonce were on a different level, more powerful, more careful, and always one step ahead of any spotlight that got too close. They weren't just attendees, they were part of the structure. Long before any allegations surfaced, the ties between Jay and Diddy were already deep, cemented in the late 90s and early 2000s, back when hip-hop was transitioning from street corners to boardrooms. Diddy was the showman, the connector. Jay was the strategist. Together, they built more than music empires. They built a network of influence that stretched far beyond recording studios. Diddy's infamous private events, those tightly controlled, no-phone nights held in Beverly Hills mansions or offshore estates, often had Jay's name quietly attached. While he rarely appeared in front of cameras at those gatherings, multiple behind-the-scenes witnesses say he was always in the room when it mattered. One former logistics coordinator described Jay as one of the few people who didn't need an invitation. He simply showed up when something important was going down. There were moments, especially around 2015 to 2019, when Diddy and Jay were in near constant communication, allegedly collaborating on projects that never made it to market but involved millions of untraceable dollars funneled through shell ventures in tech and culture-focused branding. Beyonce's presence was more subtle but just as consistent. Those same gatherings often featured curated performances, private showcases for ultra-wealthy guests flown in from overseas, where pop icons would appear for exclusive sets under non-disclosure conditions. While she maintained her pristine public image, sources who worked backstage say Beyonce was present at more than a few of these events, sometimes arriving late and leaving early, always surrounded by layers of security. But what raised eyebrows among staffers wasn't just her appearance, it was her comfort. One former private chef who worked 3 separate events tied to Diddy's team described her as calm, familiar, like someone who'd done this all before. Financial records tied to Diddy's now-defunct media fund reportedly showed joint investments with one of Jay-Z's private equity branches. On paper, they were clean: creative incubators, digital platforms, talent pipelines. But whistleblowers allege the real purpose was access. The ability to pull in talent, influencers, and investors under a trusted name, only to redirect them toward Diddy's orbit. A few of those figures, especially the younger ones, would later surface in sealed legal documents, filing suits that referenced coercion and exploitation, cases that were swiftly buried under settlements and strict gag orders. One of the more concerning threads connects to an event in early 2018, held at a secluded estate in Northern California. According to Jaguar Wright, Jay-Z is setting up Diddy while quietly doing the same things himself. Yet, unlike Diddy, he isn't on the run and remains untouched by the fallout. Now these parties featured breakout sessions on brand building, artistic freedom, and personal reinvention. But by night, according to staff logs and security briefs, the tone shifted. Bedrooms were reassigned, the music changed, and staff were ordered off the property before midnight. Multiple insiders claim it was one of the more controlled nights in terms of surveillance lockdown. No Wi-Fi, scrambled security footage, and all house cameras manually turned off. Beyonce reportedly had her own guest list for that weekend, hand-picked female artists, many of them newcomers to the industry. It was positioned as mentorship. But after that weekend, at least 2 of those artists quietly disappeared from public life.
Beyonce is losing hundreds of thousands, millions of followers every day. And she still hasn't said anything, just pretending like life is great in Paris.
Is it her place to say something?
I mean, probably not, considering she's gonna be indicted for anything she would say. These are criminals. Diddy is a drug dealer, and so is Jay-Z. The proof is there.
The others signed a new NDA, allegedly in exchange for a sudden buyout of her contract, which was handled by a legal team connected to both camps. Still, the public narrative around Jay and Beyonce has remained untouchable. While others scramble to distance themselves from Diddy as federal investigations close in, the Carters have said nothing. No denials, no disavowals, just silence. For a couple so adept at managing their image, their refusal to speak has not gone unnoticed. Some see it as calculated, others believe it's fear. Now moving on to the last and most recognizable name entangled in the storm of controversy, Jamie Foxx. In one of the most talked about podcast moments in recent months, Jamie Foxx and Joe Rogan found themselves in a conversation that had audiences glued to their screens. Though brief and laced with humor, their discussion touched on something that many have only dared to speculate about: Diddy's infamous private parties and the swirling rumors that have followed them for years. The conversation began lightly, with Rogan bringing up the long-standing internet gossip surrounding Diddy and the culture of secrecy around his events. But when Jamie Foxx chimed in, half joking, half measured, it shifted the tone. He alluded to having been at those parties, not just once, but enough times to know that something always felt different. His comments didn't come across as accusations, but rather as someone who had seen more than he was saying, and was carefully choosing which parts to laugh at and which to leave alone.
So Jay-Z, no one knows, and now the way I got into the music, however, is that all these different parties was going on, and I would have like different musical people leave me music in my little studio that I built. I went and got this great studio built in the back of my house. And so one day, in comes this kid, backpack on, jaws busted. Who is it?
Who?
It's Kanye.
His jaw's busted from like a car accident,
Yeah,
right?
Kanye walks in. And I said, who's that? They said, oh, that's that new motherfucker Kanye, man. He about to be the shit. I said, what'd he do? Well, he produces, but he also raps. I said, well, anybody come to my house, they gotta perform. So I said, yo, man, they say you rap shit. He rapped the most incredible free, I don't know if it was freestyle, it was incredible. I said, I don't know why you aren't famous.
He did it with a broken jaw?
He had a little jaw was a little swollen. I don't think it was broken, but it was a little swollen because it wasn't too long after that accident that he had, right? And then he goes, I got a song, Dad, you'll be good on.
What really caught attention was how the two addressed one particularly dark conspiracy: that Foxx's sudden health collapse in 2023 might have been linked to his proximity to Diddy. Foxx suffered a major medical event, later confirmed to be a stroke, and was out of the public eye for months, sparking intense speculation. When you have someone of Jamie Foxx's stature, not just an actor, but an Oscar-winning powerhouse with decades in the industry, Echoing the same whispers the public's been trading in YouTube comments and Twitter threads, it adds a weight that can't be laughed off entirely. And this wasn't the first time Foxx addressed it. The crowd roared, but behind the laughter was something else. A line. A wall. The suggestion that there are parts of this world the public is not meant to see. The history between Foxx and Diddy goes back years. In his earlier interviews, Foxx often mentioned how he used to throw his own parties, and Diddy would show up and turn them into something else entirely. Bigger, flashier, and, according to Foxx, often unpredictable. He spoke about being introduced to a level of celebrity nightlife that most people couldn't imagine, and while he laughed it off at the time, his recent tone has changed. This story is far from over. What do you think is really happening behind closed doors? Are these just coincidences? Or is something much darker being exposed? Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments. We're watching closely. And just when you thought it couldn't get any deeper, Ellen DeGeneres' name has now surfaced. Click here to watch the full video on how she got pulled into this. If you're into uncovering the stories they don't want you to hear, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss what's coming next.